I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Board of Public Utilities. Will everyone please stand? We have the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation.
Ready? Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, you are the true King of Kings and Lord of Lords. We ask for your headship over this meeting today, a shield of the public hearing. We ask for your peace and your headship to reign. Thank you for this community and all those involved with the community, a better place to live, work, play, and thank you for all your faith blessings. Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right. All those in attendance for the protest hearing must submit their written protest to the clerk before the close of the meeting. Members of the public wishing to comment on any item not appearing on this agenda may address the board at this time. State law prevents the board from acting on any matter not on the agenda. However, your comments may be referred to staff for follow-up. This is also the time for public to comment on items listed under the consent calendar or to request an item from the consent calendar be pulled for discussion purposes. Comments related to the public hearing and general business items will be heard at that time, and those items are discussed. In fairness to all who wish to speak, public comment is limited to a total of 15 minutes, with each speaker allowed 3 minutes unless otherwise extended by the board. Please begin your comment by stating your name and providing the city of residence. For those who wish to provide public comment while viewing the meeting online, you may call 559-366-1849. Please note that there will be approximately a 20-second delay in broadcast for viewers. When calling in, mute the device used for viewing the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak about something not on today's agenda? Is there anyone on the phone? Okay. Communication. Communications are to be submitted to the city manager's office 10 days prior to the board meeting to be considered for this section of the agenda. No action will be taken on matters listed under communications. However, the board may direct staff to schedule issues raised during communications for a future agenda. Any communications?
No.
Thank you. On the consent calendar, all matters listed under the consent calendar are considered by the board to be routine and will be enacted in one motion without discussion. If discussion is desired, that item may be removed and considered separately. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second? We have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. The public hearing. Comments related to general business items are limited to 3 minutes per speaker for a maximum of 30 minutes per item, unless otherwise extended by the board. For those that wish to provide public comment while viewing the meeting online, you may call 559-366-1849. Please note that there will be approximately a 20-second delay in broadcast for viewers. When calling in, mute the device used for viewing the meeting. Assistant City Manager Thomas Geffrey will introduce the next item.
This item on the agenda consists of 2 components. First, a resolution that the board will consider is to accept the solid waste rate study dated April 30th, 2025, which was prepared by the city's consultant in connection with the proposed rate change. And second, consideration of a resolution that would establish new solid waste rates as of July 1st, 2025 for the city's customers. Today's proceedings will consist of an overview of the Prop 218 process by Assistant City Attorney Megan Crouch, followed by a report from Public Works Director Tricia Whitfield, then a presentation by the city's consultant R3 Consulting Group. Megan?
Hello, board. So just want to give you guys some background on Proposition 218. So there's kind of two different parts to Proposition 218. One is the fact that municipalities cannot charge more than the cost of service for their utilities. So ultimately, the city's not supposed to be out there, making a profit off of its utilities, which is why we have the first component of tonight's item is the rate study. So that rate study is done and it determines what the city needs to charge in order to maintain its equipment, its facilities, and also recoup the cost to provide that service. And then the next is that essentially if you want to add a new fee or raise any fees, you have to go to the voters, but it's not in the typical sense that we see at the ballot. You just have to notice all property owners and of a hearing, which is what we're doing today. And then when you'll hold that hearing, it's essentially no different than any other public hearing that we have here, except for people can submit written protests. And if one more property owner than 50% submits written protest to the proposed new or increased rates, then the board cannot implement those rates. But if you do not get more than 50% written protest, then the board is free to do as they wish to approve those rates or not. And that's essentially the gist of the Proposition 218 hearing. If you guys have any questions about the procedure, feel free to ask.
Thank you.
So good afternoon, board. As Thomas and the city attorney discussed, we are here today to adopt a resolution accepting the solid waste rate study and to hold a public hearing to adopt a resolution to establish new solid waste rates effective July 1, 2025. Just a brief history on this. I don't want to get too far because we do have our consultant here to present their findings and where we were at. But in March of 2024, the board authorized a contract with R3 Consulting Group to complete a study of solid waste rates and make sure that we're consistent with the requirements of Proposition 218. So they were selected from 4 consultant proposals to prepare a cost of service analysis to validate the appropriate rate structure and to recommend rates for the city that generate adequate revenue to operate the solid waste division. As the city attorney stated, we cannot be for profit. We run an enterprise fund to cover the cost of service. So in our work with R3, we are looking at our cost to provide service, our future cost to provide service, and making sure those rates cover those cost of services. Remember that our cost of services not only include employees and all of the costs that go with them. Our primary cost is our landfill fees. So the cost to dispose of the trash, the organics, the green waste, and the blue that we pick up, but also our trucks. So our trucks are our infrastructure for solid waste, the cost to purchase trucks, the cost to maintain them, the cost to repair them, and the cost of fuel. So those are kind of our big costs. There are other small costs provided within that for our services that we provide. So in February, R3 came to the board and they presented their findings and some comparisons to local agencies. At that time, the board was presented with 2 different scenarios. The board selected the scenario that we move forward with. And then in March, staff brought back to the board extra fees that are associated with our cost of service. And so we broke out all of the extra fees that we charge related to cost of services. And so that was brought to the board in March. The board approved those fees. At that same meeting, we also brought the draft Proposition 218 notice to the board so they could review it before we mailed it out. The board approved the Proposition 218 notice. We are required to mail those at least 45 days in advance of the hearing. So those were mailed on March 27th. With the hearing being noticed for today, May 15th. So we met the 45-day noticing requirement for the Proposition 218 notice. So with that, we are here at the hearing. We do have translators available if any of our audience need translators. So we do have that available. And with that, we have Jordan here. I can't say his last name. I apologize, Jordan. Masu. See, I can't say it. We have Jordan here from R3 Consulting to present his findings and where we're at with the rates.
Good afternoon, board. Good afternoon, board. My name is Jordan Muratsuchi. I'm with R3 Consulting Group, and I'm here today to present our solid waste rate study. So for the presentation agenda, I'll go first on the objectives and the history. I'll get into the major findings and the rate comparisons. I'll touch on the rate study process, and I'll end with the recommendations and next steps. So objectives. So the objective of this project was to conduct a solid waste rate study and cost of service analysis, and from that recommend a 5-year rate adjustment schedule that will generate sufficient revenues to enable the solid waste division to continue to effectively operate. A little bit of history. So R3, we did the city's last solid waste rate study. That was back in 2017, 2018. That set rates from 2018 through 2022. As part of that rate study, there was a limited performance review that identified some items of improvement. And from that, additional funding back then was budgeted for additional staff and technological and safety enhancements. Additionally, about $500,000 was budgeted for courtyard improvements, and about $1 million was budgeted for continual solid waste vehicle replacement. In this rate study, we've also included similar numbers to make sure that the infrastructure for the solid waste division, which is absolutely key, is up to date and continues to maintain its effectiveness. So the major findings. The city has not increased or adjusted the solid waste rates since July 1st, 2022. And over those past 2 years, costs have increased quite significantly, in part due to higher than historical inflation, as well as the need to comply with regulations, especially SB 1383, as that's finally rolled out. However, even with the lack of rate increases or adjustments over the past 2 years, the city's division, solid waste division, is still in reasonable financial shape. There's about $4 million in operating reserves and about $4 million in the vehicle replacement fund. However, the current budget does project a revenue shortfall. And if this revenue shortfall is allowed to exist, to continue, those reserves will run out fairly quickly in the next couple of years. Therefore, a rate increase is necessary to allow the solid waste division to continue to operate. We're not proposing any increases or changes to the street sweeping for both residential or commercial. So the street sweeping rate is maintaining the same, but solid waste collection, both residential, commercial, and roll-off, we are recommending rate adjustments. Again, the main reason why it's a larger than normal rate increase this time, the main reason is just there haven't been rate increases the past 2 years. And the past 2 years have seen some considerable rate cost increases over that time. You add in higher than historical inflation and finishing complying with some regulations, and it does add to a bigger than normal rate increase this time. So the rate survey, rate comparison. So this list of communities here are the list of communities in the region that we use to compare to the city's solid waste rates. Those communities in boldface have municipal operations, so they run their own solid waste collection, just like this city. All the other communities listed there have third-party private operators for their solid waste collection. So the residential rate comparison, So as you can see, this is the city's current residential rate and how it compares to the current rates of the neighboring or the survey communities. As you can see, the city's residential rate compares very favorably to the community or to the region. It's about 19, the city's residential rate is currently about 19% less than the average of the surveyed communities. And you'll also note that some of those communities haven't increased their rates in a year or two, and you can assume that they will be doing so soon. Their costs have also continued to increase, and they will likely need rate adjustments as well. For the commercial rate comparison, so as you can see on the far right, we compared the 2-yard and 3-yard trash bins on the commercial sector. These are very commonly compared service line items. There's a lot of different services for the commercial sector, but these are two relatively common comparisons. And as you can see, the city's current commercial rates for these, too far. These, so as you can see, the city's current commercial rates for these services appears to range about 10 to 30% higher than the surveyed average of the region. However, it is extremely important to note the difference between a bundled rate and an unbundled rate. As you can see on that bundled rate column, the city is the only city or community in this survey comparison that has a bundled commercial trash rate. That means that if a city commercial business pays that amount for trash, they're also receiving recycling collection for that same cost. For all these other communities, they're paying that rate for trash, and they're paying another separate additional rate for recycling and anything else. So knowing that, a 10% to 30% rate above the surveyed average is still very reasonable. Additionally, again, some of these communities should also, I would expect, increase their rates this year, if not next year too. So going a little bit into commercial organics. So SB 1383, that new really organics law is what it is. One of the requirements is for commercial businesses to dispose correctly or for the city to collect commercial organic waste. To address this need and to help assist with compliance and right sizing for these commercial businesses, we're proposing a new rate for a new service, a 96-gallon cart rate for organics only for commercial businesses. The proposed initial rate would be $24 a month for this cart, with additional carts being able to be added on for an additional $8 a month each. As you can see, this $24 per month initial charge is reasonable and comparable to organic rates in the region and also in the state as a whole. The rate study process. We worked with division staff to assign budgeted line item costs to each of the division's lines of businesses. That's the residential line of business, the commercial, the roll-off, and the street sweeping. We then looked at those lines of businesses and the costs, and we projected those costs out for the full 10 planning period. We then assigned revenues, the current revenues, to those lines of businesses to help us understand where potential surpluses or shortfalls may occur. And from there, we developed rate adjustment scenarios that would generate sufficient revenue to cover and meet those expenses such that the division can continue to effectively operate. So the recommended 5-year rate adjustments. So again, we're recommending no increase to residential or commercial street sweeping. So that is staying flat. And again, we are proposing the establishment of that new commercial organics cart rate. But then overall for rate adjustments, we developed 2 rate adjustment scenarios for the board and city to consider. Both of these scenarios will fully fund the division. It's just a matter of kind of the timing and the layout of it. So as you can see in scenario 1, that's kind of what we call a one and done scenario. We push all the big rate increase. We do it all in the first year to get it over with. The remaining 4 years of 5%. That 5% is really a cost of living estimate adjustment to make sure that your division is keeping up with its costs. In scenario 2, it's a little bit more spread out. That first year bump is spread out over the first 2 years, and then followed by 3 years of 5% cost of living adjustments. Scenario 2 was the one that was chosen, and so we were projecting rates based off of this rate adjustment schedule. So knowing the proposed rate adjustments, we're coming back to the residential rate comparison again. Now, instead of using the current rates, we're comparing the proposed residential rate. And as you can see, your proposed residential rate in this city is still very, very favorable, compares very favorably to the rest of the region. We're estimating the proposed rate would still be less than the surveyed average, 4% less. And again, mind you, some of these communities will also be doing rate adjustments this year in the near future. On the commercial side, I didn't include a slide for the commercial proposed rates. It was a lot of different commercial rates. It's really hard to read and understand on a single slide. They would be going up by that same scenario. So it would be 13% the first year, 9%, followed by 5%, 3 years of 5% increases. And knowing that you folks have a bundled rate here, even with the projected commercial increases, we still believe that the proposed commercial rates will be reasonable within the region. So the recommended 5-year rate adjustments, the residential rates. So here on the far left, you see the current residential rate, and then you can see the rate adjustments for each of the 5 years as you move to the right. As you can see, street sweeping remains constant. We're not proposing any changes to that. It's just the other collection entities. So you can see that because of that, there's a little bit of a bump in the beginning, that 17%. Leads to quite a bump just to get the division back into consistent shape. But the final 3 years are increasing at only about $1.50 a month per year. So in terms of next steps, the recommended action is to adopt a resolution accepting the 2024 solid waste rate study and hold a public hearing to adopt a resolution establishing the new solid waste rates. The next steps following this would be on June 3rd for the City Council to ratify the new rates. And then on July 1st, 2025, the new solid waste rates would become effective. That is all I have for my presentation. I want to thank you all very much, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Do any of the board members have questions for the staff or the consultant?
Yeah, I have a question. So you had mentioned that the commercial side is bundled. Is that also the same for the regular community?
Residential or?
Yeah, residential?
Yes.
So
Residential.
both of them are bundled?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And are not, on the residential, they're not bundled when we look at these stats? It's not bundled for other communities?
No, they probably are bundled. For residential, most communities do the bundled,
Okay,
the trash, recycling, organics.
okay.
So they probably, it should be bundled for all of them.
And then just the commercials?
Yeah.
Not, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Not a question. You said at the current rate that we're at, we're gonna have a cash shortfall and it would lead to running out of our reserves by how many years?
I don't have the number right now. I don't have the model in front of me, but I believe it's 2.5 years.
So we have basically 2.5 years of burn and then we'll be out of money.
You would have to borrow money from someone.
Okay.
And we would have to increase the rate substantially more.
Yes, that's correct. It would be an even higher rate increase then.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
I will now open the public hearing. All written protests must be submitted to the clerk before the close of the meeting in order for everyone to have an opportunity to speak and for this meeting to move forward efficiently. I will set a 3-minute time limit for each speaker. This does not mean that you need to speak for 3 minutes. And if the speaker before you said something that you fully agree with and have nothing else to add, you may simply state your name and city of residence and confirm that you agree with the prior speaker. During public comment, the board and the staff will not respond to questions from the public. If the board wishes to have questions answered by the staff, that direction will be given after all speakers have finished. Do we have? Huh? Is there any public comment? but after they're done. If there is public comment, come up here to the. Please state your name and like I said, please,
Hello, my name is Daniel Guerra.
can you move to the side and, there you
Hello,
go.
My
Thank you.
name is Daniel Guerra. I live here in Tulare, right there by Lowe's. I'm opposed to this rate increase. And I had a question. How many homes or residential areas are served by the city of Tulare? How many homes, residential
No.
sites are served by the city of Tulare? Like 10,000 homes or, I'm just curious on that one.
Approximately 18,000.
18,000 homes?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first rate increase at 17%, was it? Oh. Yeah, the first rate increase would go from where I live is 27.45, will go to 31.27. So that's about what, $4 more a month? And you got how many homes again? I'm sorry? How many homes again were served?
Around 18,000.
18,000. So 18,000 times four, say 20,000. So it's about 80,000 more or less a month on the first increase. And then by the time it's finished and done, after the 5 years, it's a total rate increase of almost $10 a month per site. So that comes out to $180,000 more a month. That's quite a bit. Multiply that by 12. I could see why we have to have more monies to keep this going. But I have a suggestion, a possible solution. Instead of having weekly blue and green waste collection, maybe do it every 2 weeks. And I believe that would save money on gas, maintenance, manpower. So, because I know when I have my trash, green waste and blue waste, even my brown waste, I do about every 3 weeks because I don't fill my trash can all the way to the top. And I notice other houses, I just see it, when they dump the blue waste, it's only got like not even that full. So I would say do it every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks. I can imagine how much money that would save. I think it would be substantial. That's what I'm kind of looking at. I think we can keep the rates maybe a little bit lower or keep them as is by implementing that little idea of doing it every 2 weeks. And I believe a study needs to be performed by staff on actually how much material is in each one of those containers, the blue and the green. And I believe at one time, City of Tulare, some city put a mirror on their trash truck to see what's actually going into the truck. Or even a weight thing to figure out how much is in a trash can or green and blue. And if it shows that it's marginal or very little, then people don't have to put out their blue waste every week. I think
Thank you,
there's-
sir.
Pardon me?
I have to cut you off. Sorry.
Okay, well, I'm opposed.
But
Thank you.
Do we have anybody else on the public comment? I think we do, yeah.
Para querer su nombre y si vive aquí en Tulares.
Sí, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Alfredo Gómez y sí vivo aquí en Tulare.
His name is Alfredo and he lives here in the city of Tulare.
Creo que el motivo de esta reunión es acerca de que van a aumentar el costo de la basura sólida, o sea, los contenedores. ¿Está correcto?
He's asking that if this meeting is for the solid waste rate study to increase the cost for residential trash.
For the
ECS.
trash.
El motivo de mi presencia y los pocos que asistimos aquí es que es importante el no aumentar por la crisis que nos está afectando a todo el país,
Que no
que
quiere.
no haya aumento.
He's opposed. He doesn't feel like the city should increase the rate for the solid waste.
Eso sí se puede. Si no se puede, pues ni modo, ¿verdad? Pero también yo tengo otra duda en el cobro de agua. No sé si podemos incluir también lo del agua.
Del agua,
No,
esto es nomás
nomás la
para
basura.
la basura.
La basura.
He understands that if it's not possible not to increase the rate study, then he understands.
Muy bien, entonces me gustaría de que la asistencia que hubo hoy, que son muy pocos,
Ujú.
me gustaría que hicieran otra reunión después. Yo me gustaría comentarlo en mi iglesia, donde hay muchísimos, entonces sí les juntaría bastante gente.
He feels that if it's possible to postpone this meeting, because he sees that there's not a lot of people here for this meeting, and that way he could go back to his church to go ahead and explain to them this study and how it may affect.
Okay, thank you. We can't. Okay. I can't answer that question.
Digo que no puede darle una respuesta sobre si pueden posponer esta cita.
Entonces quiere decir que hoy, para los pocos que asistimos, ya es un hecho de que va a ser ese incremento que va a haber.
He's wanting to know that since we can't postpone the meeting, that for the people who are here, is it a done deal then that the rates are gonna go ahead and follow through?
We have to still vote.
Que todavía necesitan que votar.
Bueno, entonces ojalá hubiera una fecha para yo decirle a mi iglesia para que venga más gente, porque pues imagínense, todas las familias.
He's wanting to know when the voting will take place. So that va a ser ahora la vota. Sí.
¿Y cuánto es lo que se va a incrementar?
¿Mm?
¿Cuánto es lo que se va a incrementar?
Que el costo, allí lo tiene su papel.
Sí.
I'm just showing them right now what they're being charged to how much it's gonna.
Yeah.
Aquí es ahorita lo que está pagando.
Sí.
Sí.
Eso es de los contenedores, sí.
Sí, de los contenedores y también para limpiar la calle. So, si votan que sí sobre el, para aumentar, aquí es lo que va
A
a
quedar.
pagar.
Por
Comenzando
los tres.
julio. Sí, comenzando julio.
Son que
Primero.
como $5 o $6, ¿no? Algo así.
Del 27.45 a 31.27. Y en el próximo año, en julio, es lo que va
A
aumentar.
33, 35.
A 30, sí.
Pero aumente,
Y de-
aumente.
Sí, y el año en julio 2029 es lo que va
Ujú,
a
38.
38.14 centavos, sí.
Bueno, pues ahorita vamos a decir que lo que sea un vote la gente, ¿verdad?
Sí, ellos-
Pero con las pocas personas que ven basta la votación.
He said with the little people that are here, you guys are still gonna vote,
Yes.
que sí.
Bueno. Yo tenía otro tema del agua, pero es que no cuenta hoy lo del agua. ¿En dónde podemos quejarnos lo del agua?
Has a question in regards to the water. ¿El servicio del agua?
Sí, sí,
In regards
porque
to the water service, and he wants to know if he can ask this question now or if he has to. No, que no
entonces
puede.
cerrar en el departamento del agua.
Ujú.
Muy bien.
Not yet. Light.
Bueno, pues muchas gracias.
He says, thank you.
Thank you. The light. Yeah. Yeah. Do we have any other public comments?
Buenas tardes. Mi
Good
nombre es
afternoon.
Rafael Ramírez. Ah,
My name is Rafael Ramirez.
Vivo aquí en Tulare.
I live here in Tulare.
Mi pregunta es, no sé por qué dividen a la gente. Es como dividirla porque somos cientos de
He doesn't
residentes
understand how we could be dividing the people.
o que vivimos en el área de Tulare.
That we live here in the city of Tulare.
Y tengo entendido que van a subir lo del costo de la basura, ¿verdad?
I understand that
Van a ingresar
that
los
the city's
precios.
gonna be increasing the rates for solid waste.
Entonces, mi pregunta es, muchos, cada 8 días llenan los botes de basura, se sale de los botes, la vuela al aire. Yo cerca de mi casa ahí ando recogiendo la basura.
He said, my question is that every 8 days, trash is collected and he's put outside and the wind blows it and he's having to pick up his trash or the trash that gets
Eh,
blown away.
Entonces, mi pregunta es, por ejemplo, yo en mi lugar, en mi casa, lo que es lo verde, lo de la yarda y árboles, como una vez al mes o una vez cada 2 meses. Entonces, yo pienso que no es justo
He said that where I live, I fill up my green can with either grass or tree clippings, every 2 to 3 weeks.
cuando muchos, cada 8 días, se llenan los botes. Entonces, no sé si están cobrando parejo o por libra o cómo
He
es
doesn't
que cobran.
understand that if it's every 8 days that the trash is collected, how is it measured cost-wise? Is it measured by how much is being thrown or by the weight?
Porque no es justo pagar unos, si el costo va a subir parejo, yo creo que no es justo que que los que juntan más basura cada 8 días que pasan recogiéndola, es más peso que el que otros, entonces no
He's
es justo.
saying that it's not fair for those people who don't have a lot of trash in their containers to be charged the same amount as those people who have a lot more trash.
Entonces, esa es mi pregunta para que pues miren en eso y que pues que sea justo porque yo pienso que hay mayores también, gente mayor que yo creo ni tiempo tienen de poner basura en sus botes y yo he visto que pasan y es una cosita así que se ve que tiran a la basura y es el mismo costo que les cobran a ellos también. Entonces yo creo que no es justo para pagar unos por otros.
He feels that there should be a rate study on residentials in regards to who uses the services more than others, and that it's not fair for those who use it less or throw away less should be charged the same amount as a family who uses or throws away a lot more trash than the others. That he feels that they should pay less if they use the service less.
Es mi comentario.
And that's my comment.
Thank you.
Obrigado.
Gracias por escucharme.
Do we have any other public comments? Clerk, is there anyone on the phone? Um, Is the time if I want to ask Patricia or you to answer any of the questions they have? All right, Tricia or Thomas, do you guys want to answer any of the questions that any of those participants brought up, or did you write them down?
Chair, we can answer any that the commissioners would like.
Oh,
So if there's specific ones you'd like us to answer, we're prepared to do that.
A couple people brought up, I guess, twice a month or something like that. Is there any thoughts on that, doing something like that?
No, what we have looked at though, and we're evaluating is potentially splitting up the blue and the green day. So right now you put your blue and green out and we service your blue and then we service your green. We have potentially looked at splitting those days. So we do all blue one day and then all green one day. That's still an evaluation. When you change a route and when you change the customer's habits, you don't want to keep changing it. So if we switch to it, we have to know that that's what we want to do. I will say that it has seemed to work pretty good over the years. It seems like when the green is heavy, the blue is a little bit lighter. And then when blue is heavy, the green is a little bit lighter. So it's a very seasonal. This time of year, our drivers are working, up to 11, 12 hours a day because the routes are heavy. It's spring. There's a lot of green waste. I understand customers, have smaller households or larger households and their habits may be different and their yards may be different sizes. Overall, it seems as though our service is working. We do advise that if your blue can isn't completely full or your green can isn't completely full, maybe not to put it out, but people do have the option to put it out every week. So I think that answered a majority of the question, but in the winter, the blue routes are heavy when you have a lot of, around Christmas time, when you have a lot of people ordering online and getting deliveries, it seems like our blue routes are heavy. There's a lot more cardboard. So it is seasonal, but it does seem to kind of maintain itself.
thank you. Are there any written protests? Written protests must be submitted by the close of public hearing. Please turn in them now. I will not close the public hearing. Board members, do you have any additional questions for staff or comments? Or can you report how on written protests received?
$343.
Okay. Is there any more discussion on this item?
Clerk, can you say again how many written protests you'd receive?
343.
So board, we received 343 protests, plus you heard your public comments today, and your total number of ratepayers is a little over 18,000. So
Actually, it's higher because they asked for residential. So with
Oh.
commercial, it's 22,000. So half the votes is 10,648.
yeah, so based on city attorney's comments earlier about the Prop 218 threshold for whether or not you're allowed to act on the item, you've now met that so that you can make a decision on the resolutions.
Thank you. The board will now consider each resolution separately. The first is a resolution to approve the 2024 solid waste rate study dated April 30th, 2025 by R3 Consulting Group. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved. The second resolution rescinding resolution 1803 and to establish refuse collection, disposal, and street sweeping rates effective July 1st, 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028, and 2029. Do I have a motion?
I have a question on this. I'm sorry. It says rescinding resolution 1803. Can you speak to that?
That's the previous rates.
The previous rates, okay.
Correct.
That we've had in force until. Okay.
Correct.
All right, makes sense. Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We got a first and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Are there any items of interest? Tricia?
Yes, Board. As you'll recall from the last meeting, next week is National Public Works Week. So it gives us an opportunity to celebrate our public works employees and all the hard work they do for the city of Tulare day in and day out. So we we call it the taco lunch. So that is Thursday, May 22nd at 11:30. You should have all received invites. You don't need to RSVP per se, but we would love to have you join us to celebrate our employees. So Thursday, May 22nd at the Corporation Yard, 11:30. So shoot me a text if for some reason you can't get in the gates. I know that's always difficult. I think we keep the side gate open, but we do invite you to celebrate our employees. It's the one time a year we all get together and we have lunch and just, all their hard work, collecting trash day in and day out, providing water service, sewer service, maintaining our streets, maintaining our fleet. And so it's nice to recognize them for that. And I thank the board for their time today and their direction. This isn't easy. We're all affected by the rates. We all live in this community. It's not easy. And, it's something that we spend a lot of time looking into and evaluating and really making sure that we're moving forward in the right direction to maintain our services.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to thank the community for coming out, those who did come out and voice their thoughts. It's really matters to the board. So thank you.
Thomas? Megan? I want to thank everybody for being here on this day, on this afternoon. And at this moment, I'd like to call the meeting adjourned at 4:47 p.m.